The Metroidvania genre of games has grown up and taken off in recent years. Masterpieces like Hollow Knight, Blasphemous, and Dead Cells have continued the tradition of their ancestors while also putting their own spin on mechanics and introducing their own creativity to create experiences that will stay in gamers' memories for a long time. While anyone or everyone can easily point back to those first Metroid and Castlevania games as the origin point of the genre, there's one game that did so much to influence and expand the direction the genre would go in while simultaneously being overlooked and largely forgotten. Today, we are here to change that and take a bit of a look back at Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which in my opinion is still an underappreciated classic. When Castlevania Symphony of the Night was released, it unfortunately had to contend with a gaming landscape that was in the process of changing. It was March 97 and the dawn of full 3D graphics was upon us, though in a fairly primitive stage. At the time, gamers compared the rudimentary blocky polygons of games like Final Fantasy VII to the artfully flat pixel art of Symphony of the Night and found the latter to feel old, out of touch and disappointing. This was obviously incredibly short-sighted, since the art and visual style of Symphony of the Night are so beloved by many indie games, including the previously mentioned Blasphemous and Dead Cells, that have strived to hit its high watermark. I mean, you don't see many games trying to look like the original release of Final Fantasy VII. The initial reaction to the 2D art in a world that was being introduced to 3D graphics caused the game to sell upsettingly poorly. It sold only 60,000 units in North America at the time. For comparison, Final Fantasy VII sold 330,000 copies in its first weekend on the market. Even for a game as iconic as Final Fantasy VII, I mean, it's a pretty huge difference for games that were equally as influential for their franchises at the time. Look, thankfully the dismal sales didn't prevent Symphony of the Night from getting critically acclaim it deserved. The game has been cited by several reviewers as one of the greatest video games of all time, making note of its innovative gameplay among its visuals and sound design. Every aspect of Symphony of the Night combines in such a way that the end product is an experience that was unlike anything that's been released in the Castlevania series up to that point. The game was so successful in its execution that future games in the series would use Symphony of the Night as some sort of a blueprint to create an incredible game. Now that you have an idea of the overall importance of Symphony of the Night to the genre it helped create, and how it was so heavily underrated for its time, let's now take a look at the actual game to see what, made it so special. Even by today's standards, Symphony of the Night is quite impressive. When you start the game, you'll get stuck in how carefully the art direction is able to balance being gothic and foreboding while also containing plenty of color. The game never feels boring or drab as a result, unlike latter entries such as the critically panned Lord of Shadows 2. Symphony of the Night's visuals are aided by constant fluid animations, including Alucard's flowing hair as he walks with purpose, and his skillful attack animations, which are often rewarded by surprisingly violent sprays of blood. Speaking of combat, you'll encounter dozens of different enemy types throughout Symphony of the Night, along with truly memorable boss fights like the ever-morphing sphere constructed of hundreds of bodies known as Legion. In between these bouts of combat, you'll spend majority of your time exploring the labyrinth of halls and rooms that make up Dracula's castle. Alucard maintains the signature slower than you'd expect movement speed that has been present in every Castlevania game, but navigating the castle is still a joy. Jumping between floating platforms and dashing over chasms is simply delightful. However, the most impressive part about Symphony of the Night is something that is quite easy to overlook. At a certain point in the game, you'll fight Richard Belmont, the protagonist of Rondo of Blood. You can face him head to head and kill him, and ultimately you can end the game, but if you go into that fight with a certain item, essentially an entire new game opens up as an inverted version of Dracula's castle descends from the sky, full of more powerful creatures and new challenges. This doubling of the game by using the same assets was a stroke of genius, and the upside down visuals of the inverted castle continue to be absolutely mind-bending. Man, just so many things, but look, while Castlevania Symphony of the Night fell through the cracks at the time due to circumstances that were out of its control, it continues to stand tall as a pillar of video game history. Right, gamers, and that is it for Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But what did you guys think of this video? You like it? Is there some thoughts you want to share? Let us know in the comments down below. If this video is kind of what you guys are into, let us know in the comments below as well, and kind of what you think of Castlevania Symphony of the Night. And, you know, while you're down there, consider hitting that subscribe button, if not already. But again, yeah, thank you so much for all the support lately. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, see ya.